Hello everyone. Today I am going to follow up on the last two videos that I made. So I started with making a different tints of all of the colors that I have. So I've got two cool reds, a warm red, a warm yellow, and a cool yellow, two cool blues, and a warm blue. And you can tell when you look at the blues that this blue looks like it has just a little bit of more of a purplish color to it, and these blues have more of a greenish color to them. And then same with the reds, this one looks like it has more of an orangish color to it, and these have more of a purplish color. Then I took the reds and the blues and I mixed the warm and warm and cool yellows. So here are the warm yellows, here are the cool yellows, and you can see that these definitely, when we compare each, this one is a little bit more bright and this one's a little bit more subdued. So obviously I've got oranges and I've got greens, so now we need purples. And I made a grid using the same recycled paper. You can see that I think this one, it looks like I was giving a lecture on sedimentary rocks, maybe rock cycle, I think. And there are 9 options. So I'll show you how I have this divided out. So I've got magenta, and then I have my 3 blues. So cerulean, phthalo, and ultramarine. So I'm going to go through and blend those, and then those 3 go here. So the squares are smaller on this particular palette, just because I wanted to be able to fit all of the purples on here. So these are all going to be purples. The expectation is that we've got all the cool reds here and the warm red here, and then cool blues to the left of each of those columns. As before, so we've got magenta. The way that I had this set up before is I did 1 dollop of plain magenta, and then 3, 2, 3 with white, 1 that's going to be 50-50 white, and 1 that's going to be mostly white. So it's a 1 to 3 to 1, to 1 for just the magenta. 1, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to have so much extra paint, so I'm going to be making something with purple today. Then, using the same formula that I used on the oranges and the greens, I am going to do, so the top one stays white, and then I just do 1 dollop of white on the top. Of course, they're mixing. And then this next one round is going to just be 50-50, roughly 50-50. And then the bottom one is mostly 2, 3, mostly white, so it's going to be a nice, cool pink color. At this rate, I'm going to get all of my white used up. As I said before, I use the back of my brush to mix. So here's this should be roughly close to the same shade that I had, or the same tint that I had before. And since this color is going to be the same as this, I'm just going to use the same, and I'm going to clean my brush off. And this is quite a bit of paint. And then the next one, I'm going to try to get some of that white away from the other pile. Like I said, this is a lot of paint. I'm going to have to make something purple, and that's okay because I have a couple of birthday cards to make this month, and I can use this purple for a few of those. And if not, who knows, maybe I'll just find something else to paint. And I'm just cleaning my brush. It doesn't really matter. I just want to try to keep the colors as sort of true as possible. So now we've got that 50-50 magenta. Kind of looks like a bubblegum pink. I'm a little bit more quiet and subdued today because lots of talking today at work. So today is a quiet day. This one, way darker. So not enough white. So I'm actually going to add more white because I want these to be as true of a representation as possible to compare to each other. And I saw that when I put the magenta down that it was way too much. So we're aiming for roughly bubblegum pink. Doesn't have to be perfect. This one's a little bit more Pepto-Bismol, and this one's a little bit more bubblegum, but general idea. And then our beautiful rose colors. This rose, or this very pale magenta, reminds me of like roses that I would have painted for my grandma. She really liked pink roses. Last one. Running out of paper. I specifically labeled these ahead of time because I am doing 9 colors. Actually, my math is not correct. 9 across colors plus 4 down colors. That's 36 colors that it keeps track of, and so I just wanted to make sure that I keep all of those colors straight. So the next step in this same process that I did in the last couple of videos, actually the first video I did, is I just add the equal amounts of this. So even though that's going to throw off the color a little bit, I'm just going to put equal amounts, just one dollop in every single pile of all the blues. So cerulean, phthalo, and the phthalo is the strongest of these, so I'm curious to see how it reacts. But, goodness, these phthalo is just not dropping out of here. The cerulean, I think, is just going to look really, really good. Like the very light cerulean looked almost like something that you would see at a baby shower. And the magenta also kind of looks that way, so I feel like those two together are going to look really cool. Right? So magenta and cerulean. So this is a cool blue with a cool red, and we absolutely are getting a very cool purple. So very, very, lots of blue in this. Very bluish purple. And now with just a hint of white, we start to lighten that up. And I can't pinpoint where I would have seen this shade of purple. It's just kind of a generic purple. Not quite a grape. Very crayony. Yeah, like a purple crayon. My stir stick is getting. So this one looks like it's way more blue, so I didn't quite get enough of the pink in it. But we'll get a good idea of kind of the general direction that this purple turns. It's very, very blue. That is what I'm noticing about this, is that the cerulean is just a very, very, I mean, obviously it's a cool purple because it's a cool red and a cool blue, but it's just a very, I was thinking this would make a good lilac, but it's almost too blue. Next we have phthalo. So phthalo is very strong blue, and it very much dominates this magenta. I don't see almost any magenta in that. I don't see purple in that. If it is purple, it's very, I would say it's a very dark purple. Almost like if purple was made with a navy blue. Again, this one, so like I said, phthalo is just a very strong blue. So this second color, also very heavily blue. And these are the cool purples, and they look like very cool purples. This one we expect to be the darkest of them. It's very dark, or very blue, so we don't have very much of this. And it's very blue. I can barely see any pink in that. And that is likely just because that particular pink is was pretty small pile of pink. This is the most amount of white, and still very, very dominantly blue. So like I can't see any purple in this at all. So when comparing those two, you can definitely see more of the purple there. The blue just overpowers the magenta completely. It'll be interesting to see my Cabernet Medium, no, Cabernet Deep is a very strong red, so it'll be interesting to see the phthalo with that. And now we have the ultramarine, and I have already done magenta and ultramarine on a previous video on how to find the best red, and I personally, this is my favorite purple, is the ultramarine blue with magenta. So it's a warm blue with a cool red, and it's just very vibrant. I very much love that purple. So I get to learn what it looks like with just a hint of white in that. And I'm not even going to compare it with the phthalo, because the phthalo basically was dominated by that purple is dominated by the blue rather than the magenta, and it doesn't really come out as purple. So when it comes to the second purple, I actually prefer that cooler color. And that's just a personal preference. This one you can start to see that it looks more warm, more rosy looking. All of these purples are completely, it's one person's preference over another. That is how color is chosen. And then also, I know there are quite a few people that I know that are colorblind, and so the nuances of color to them, aren't that. It's just not that big of a deal for them. So, so comparing those two, you can see this one looks much bluer than that. This one truly looks. This looks almost straight blue, whereas this stuff definitely is starting to pull that purple color. And then here's going to be our lavender. I'm still hoping for a shade of purple that would look good with lilacs. Don't know when I would paint lilacs bushes, but I just like the idea that it's a possibility. So yeah, this one definitely looks more lilac-y, very warm. So those are our 3 shades of purple, or different types of purple using magenta. And I'm going to just get all 3 of those added to my palette. So I'll go right here. So just that dark cerulean blue. And these boxes are just a hint smaller. So cerulean. Oh man, just a single little swipe of each of these colors. Yeah, I really like the cerulean, the lighter blue, that particular color. Just kind of a muted. I don't want to say it's plum, but I guess until I have all of them together, I'm not going to be able to say. This is definitely pushing into that periwinkle range, that color. And they look so different in the piles than they do on canvas. And on canvas is really where it matters, because I don't paint piles of paint, I paint on canvas. Next we've got the phthalo, which is very much, even when I paint this on, you can't even tell there's magenta in here. It's so dark. And the funny thing, you wouldn't have seen it on the camera, when I was squirting the phthalo in, I was using less than the other 2 blues. This is the only one of the phthalo that starts to hint that this is purple. The rest pretty much all look just blue. So that's good to know when using phthalo, that it holds the blue really well. I guess that's strength and weakness of it. And last is our ultramarine, which I have tested before. And that color right there, I just love that ultramarine blue, that really bright purple. That's like Viking purple for all the Minnesota people. I guess to be fair, since the Packers are close, I should probably see which green of mine is a Packer color. Yeah, these definitely, now that these are on paper, this ultramarine and magenta, I think that is the color that I would probably use when painting a lilac. So I got these huge piles of paint. I think I'm gonna have to paint something with that. I don't want to be wasteful. So I'm just gonna compare these with the originals, because I made the comment that these were, yeah. So there's magenta, and then that phthalo is it did not change it hardly at all. So yeah, the cerulean and the ultramarine, but the phthalo has hardly changed at all. I would have to use immense amounts of magenta or tiny amounts of phthalo. All right, so now we're doing CAD deep, and I'm actually going to get my piles way up here so that I don't run out of space. And the first squish is the easiest, and then it's going to get tough. I really would like to get something like a pump for this. If oops, the first one does not get it, and also I just realized the second one gets 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. Blood red deep. So this is also a cool shade, and then it's 1, 1, and 1, 2, 3. 1. If I don't count these, anybody 1, 2, 3. Anybody who's taking a class with me, I can get distracted pretty easily. 1, 2, 3. I just distracted myself. I don't know what I was saying before I lost count. But CAD red deep, cool red. I'm making a lot of purple paintings. This one looks like the pile of white was a little bit big, but not terrible. this is that 50-50 mix. Very, I don't even know what color, like I would call this Cad Red Deep. It's, see if I can get that without mixing anything going. These pinks are just very neutral blah pinks. And now our very lightest pink. Yeah, sorry for the lack of commentary today. It's a long day at work. Lots of students on campus today. Lots of hopes and dreams on campus. This pink is too similar to that pink. I think I am going to, they're pretty close. I feel like this one needs just a hint more white. Just a hint. Come on. Almost out of light, so that's why it's starting to get difficult for me. There we go. So then, same blues, cerulean, phthalo, and ultramarine. One drop of each. So cerulean is the cool. Phthalo is also cool, super strong. Cad Deep is the one that is also strong. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform together. And then ultramarine blue. So cool red, a very strong cool red with a, I don't want to say that it's a weak cool blue, but just a neutral or just a bright cool blue. And that one, the red, the Cad Red Deep is absolutely taking over the blue in this. So it's definitely purple. I'm pretty sure I used Cad Red Deep or Cad Red Medium or both in the previous video on how to find the perfect red. But the cerulean, I did not have that blue, so this is not a repeat for me. Pepto-Bismol pink, not quite. This is with this extra blue, this one looked a little warmer, whereas this one looks a little cooler, so just because smaller pile of paint. Very, very cool purples. This is a cool red and a cool blue, but they still kind of look a little neutral almost. Now we're going into Cad Deep and phthalo, and it looks black. I think the blue is taking over this one. But it looks black. So dark. That is interesting. This is like, the blue is absolutely taking over, but it is so dark that it's like black. That is crazy. Like even when I wipe this, it'll be interesting to see what it does on canvas. At least now we're adding quite a bit of white, so then it'll lighten it up. So this middle one, just very blue, but it is kind of got a grayish color to it. That is interesting. My little white paint is getting everywhere. I don't know how much I love this phthalo with red. That is not what I use it for. Yeah, it's completely overpowering this red. And Cad Red Deep is pretty powerful, so very strong blue. The last one, Cad Red Deep with ultramarine blue, and this would have been definitely one that I had in my previous video. So ultramarine blue is a warm blue. Cad Red Deep is a cool red, and you can see that this purple is very, it almost looks brown. And this next color, yeah, it's the red is overpowering the blue in this case. And we saw that with the cerulean, so the red is definitely the more powerful color. But it just looks, it's very, like almost maroon. So if I were making a maroon or a wine color, ultramarine blue with a Cad Red Deep, don't know where I'd be using that color, but actually I do know where I have a painting that uses a very similar color to that. But it's like a sunset painting that where the sun hasn't completely set and the trees kind of have that reddish color. So instead of black tree outlines, it's maroon tree outlines. So this these purples are definitely more interesting than, especially, well, just because the Cad Red is so powerful. So we'll just see how far I can get this up, stay on camera. So got cerulean and Cad Red Deep. So this is, on paper, this definitely looks more like a plum. That's the color I would call that on paper. And then, so this must be like, I don't know, a light plum. This color looks like something that you would have as a bridesmaid dress. So kind of a very neutral purple. This is definitely a lot more blue than the red. But I mixed everything exactly the same, and so rather than getting true colors, I'm getting just the same across. So even though that's not necessarily a 50-50 mix, like I can mix that again and I'm going to get that same color. Here's that phthalo. It looks black on paper, it looks black on canvas. So I follow another artist who, his name is Jed Dorsey. He actually recommends using phthalo for black, and it looks black. And this purple looks like, you know, if you were trying to make something look black, the second color, but you wanted to have just a hint of color, that's what that purple looks like. And then once we start adding more white, the blue takes over. So you can't even tell that there's red in there. We probably will be able to once I compare it with the original blues. So yeah, the blue completely takes over by the end. And last is our ultramarine, so a warm blue with a very powerful cool red, and we get a very red purple. So that I would definitely use for a wine color, or like I said, my sunset color that I have, where just painting some trees that are very dark red. I really like that. Very bright purple. I know at least a few of my viewers are colorblind, so they're just going to see the blues. And then I have some that are blue-green color blind, and they're only going to see the reds. So they're just going to see grays. So there we go. Those are all the Cad Red Deeps, and I'm going to get those out here again. So here is the red that we were using. We can see here that the ultramarine was definitely overpowered by this very strong red. And then the phthalo, once again, took over. It did it with the magenta also. And the cerulean for both colors. So cerulean, it really, I think it looks really wonderful with the magenta. But the Cad Red Deep, it's muted almost. So let's see what we find with, I can move this off to the side without knocking too much stuff over. So Cad Red Medium, just going to mix these all up. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 1, 1, okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, and 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, and 1. I do something similar with the white. Alright, let's see if I can even get enough white out of here. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. Red on my white. 1, 2, 3. And mixing clean. I might need to edit my video. I didn't want to edit my videos too much. Yeah, editing. Oh, these mix so much nicer with the white. I spoke too soon. We'll see. I might have to scroll for these. I'll try to. This is definitely that ketchup and mayo. Like if I were to make, I don't eat that, but I've seen plenty of people that do. This that red with the mostly red with a little bit of white. It looks like ketchup and mayo. And this one looks like Laffy Taffy. The Laffy Taffy pink. I'm not sure why all of these colors remind me of like heavily processed food, but they do, and I don't eat those things. But like that's like the best analogy I have. So kind of like the same way that everybody orders their Gatorade by the color rather than the flavor, because it's not about the color or the flavor. It's all about the color. Which color you like the best. All right, last round of what I call baby pinks. These are like the lightest colors of pink. And this pink, I mentioned that my grandma really liked roses. That's what I think of when I think of these very, very light pinks. She would have loved pale pink roses. And honestly, as I'm swirling the thing, I used to be a cake decorator, and the swirls kind of remind me of making roses for cakes. And these are, just show you, these bottom two pinks are very similar. So I just didn't get enough white on them. So blues, here we go. Got cerulean, yellow, which we know is just going to overpower these four reds. Although it should be interesting, this red is the warm red. So cad red medium is warm. So maybe it will tone down the phthalo a little bit. No! Oh, gross. I just put the phthalo in twice. We are going to scoop that out, and then we're going to start all over. And welcome to mistakes. Sometimes they are made. If I am blocking the camera at all, I apologize, because my priority is to just get rid of this excess phthalo that I accidentally mixed in where the ultramarine is supposed to go. It's not as big of a deal because I have already mixed ultramarine with cad red medium, but I am actually making a functional palette, so I do want this to be accurate representation. So now my colors are going to be way off because I need to, I'll be mixing with a little bit less of the ultramarine blue. So we'll try to get this color as close to just a hint of blue. And we're just gonna hope for the best with that ultramarine. All right, cerulean with cad red medium. So we've got a very light or bright, cool blue with a warm red, and we get kind of a muddier purple. So definitely a muddy purple. And then when we add just a hint of white to it, still kind of like a neutral, like more of a muted purple. But it's definitely purple. It's not like that phthalo that almost turned black. This is like almost gray. It's so neutral, that particular purple. Here comes the moment of truth. We've got phthalo. Phthalo in for the domination again. I feel like there needs to be a superhero named Phthalo because they just dominate, or a wrestler maybe. Vessler because they just dominate. So that also turns black. So Cad Red Deep and Cad Red Medium both turn black. And then with the little bit of white, it's definitely blue. So at least Cad Red Medium, or sorry, Cad Red Deep, it did turn a little bit purple, but the Cad Red Medium, definitely blue. There's hardly any hint of purple in this at all. The magenta had a little bit of a hint of purple, but like the other colors, as soon as we get to this white, so essentially up here it is 3 reds to 1 blue to get it to pull away. So, I mean, for anybody who's watching this, that's actually using this to learn how to paint, that's a good lesson to learn from using phthalo, that when you do a 1-to-1 ratio with these bright darker reds, you're getting black. But when you get a 3-to-1 ratio of the red to the blue, you start getting, you can start pulling that phthalo blue out. All right, so after my mistake of mixing the wrong one, so now we've got Cad Red Medium with ultramarine blue. We have a warm red and a warm blue, and you can see it is a brown purple. So it's not nearly as pleasant looking as the Cad Deep, which definitely looks more wine colored, but it's close, but just a little bit warmer than that. And this is mostly going to be ultramarine blue because my pile of pink got thrown away, but that's okay. Just gives me an idea of colors. And like I said, I do have somewhere in one of my books I have this, but I'm hoping to hang these up in my office that I have them, my studio office. So yeah, just a nice. This one looks a little bit better, but it's still very neutral. But I got all of them made. And we're at 45 minutes, so I'm going to have to edit this and cut it so it's a little bit shorter. So we've got Cad Red Medium with cerulean, or cerulean blue. It's very similar to the Cad Red Deep, but right there is where you can see that it starts to get to be a little bit of a different color. So those two start to break away from each other, where this is just a little bit warmer, a little bit more brighter almost, lighter, gentler, but definitely more warm than over here. Lots of purple. Oh, yeah, I just realized that the camera, this guy's still down there. And then here's my, the overpowering phthalo again. And you can see just the smallest hint of phthalo blue in it. So it's not black like the previous one, but it is very, very dark. Here is another blue. This one almost looks teal, which is interesting because so a warm red with phthalo blue, and it's very teal. So that's interesting. They kind of progressively get more of that teal look to them, like ocean blue. Ultramarine with Cad Red Medium. It's similar to the Cad Red Deep. That one is where you can see that warmth coming out. It's much pinker. This is blue. So, comparing our blues. So we still have that very strong phthalo, ultramarine, just the warmer, kind of more the hinting towards the purple and more hinting towards the green. So because this is hinting towards the green, that would explain why the ceruleans look a little bit more on the browner side, because these are reds. Whereas these, specifically this one is an orangish colored red. This is just a powerful red, but it's still very much red. The magenta has kind of that purplish color to it, and so it makes sense that it looks a little bit more purple. So this is where we ended up with the purples, and then we have the oranges and the greens, and they do not all fit on here, but I tried. So I got orange, green, and purple. And that's where we ended up with all of my color palettes of the paints that I have. And now that I have a healthy mix of purples, I think I'm going to have to start another painting. See you next time.